There is a story told in my family. Perhaps it's told in yours as well. It's a bit apocryphal. It's a story of a young child who goes to school and is asked to introduce themselves. And this child watches as around her classmates stand up and say, "Hello, my name is so-and-so. I am from Germany. I speak German. Hello, I am so-and-so. I am from West Bengal. I speak Bengali. Hello, I am so-and-so. I speak French and I'm from France." So when the child's turn comes, she stands up and says, "Hello, I am so-and-so, and I speak English, so I am English." And she's not actually wrong. This is an apocryphal story told in my family, so there's no way she actually was English. But language is one of the ways in which we define our identity. So if you speak Bengali, you're Bengali. If you speak Chinese, you're Chinese. Or rather, if you speak Mandarin, you're probably from the north of China. If you speak Cantonese, you're from the Canton province, and so on and so forth. So language is one way in which we define our identity. But as for me, I speak English, Hindi, and Japanese. I understand Marathi, Punjabi, and a bit of Pasar Melayu. What does that make me then? How do I define my identity? And the thing is, the way I define my identity is not the way other people would want to define my identity for me. The way we look, the way we dress, that's another way people like to define identity. People also want to tie identity to a plot of land. If you were born here, that makes you this. If you hold this passport, then you're a member of that country. Now, for many years, I held a dark blue passport marking me as a citizen of India, even though I'd lived more years in Singapore than in India. I have a very good friend who used to send her passport back to Barbados for extension, even though she'd lived more years in Singapore than she had in Barbados. And now it seems that no matter what passport you hold, and by the way, I now hold a red passport marking me as a citizen of Singapore, but to some people, no matter what passport you hold, you're only accepted as a citizen or someone belonging to a place if you speak, dress, or act a certain way. And that's a reductive way of thinking. This way of framing identity based on how you look, dress, or passport, it makes some people comfortable, but it denies the truth that identities are complex, rich, and ever-changing. I'm descended from people who were born in parts of the Punjab, which are now in Pakistan. I'm descended from people who were adopted by a Kikuyu chieftain in Kenya. In my home, we make a minced meat omelette for breakfast, and I love it. Everybody loves it. We're really happy when it's on the menu. And this minced meat omelette is such a common family dish that I used to fight with my friends in Singapore who said, "Hey, this is something we ate in Thailand." I'd say, no, it's a very common Indian delicacy. And then, of course, I asked my parents where the recipe had come from, and it turns out they had learnt it from friends in Thailand. So what then is my identity? What is the identity of that minced meat omelette, which was, a Thai delicacy and brought by people from Thailand who went and met my family in India and taught them how to make it, and 2 generations later, I'm saying, no, it's a common Indian delicacy. Is it or isn't it? The way I define my identity is that I'm a person who speaks multiple languages, who has been formed by the friendships and teachings of people from many countries and ethnicities around the world. I think of facets of my identity as a way to anchor myself in the world, as a way to enrich my understanding of the world and enhance my participation in it. So my identity, for example, needs me to question notions of what is appropriate office wear. Now, in many multinational companies, appropriate office wear means pants, shirt, maybe a tie, skirts for the ladies, heels. And should that actually be appropriate office wear in a world where saris, baju, and kameezes are actually more weather friendly, more in tune with the customs and the climate? My identity leads me to question concepts of the binary, good, evil. Are there really only ever 2 ways of looking at something? For example, I turn to the great epic, the Ramayana, and I think of Ravan, who was the villain of that story. But before he was the villain, and while he was the villain, he was also a great king, a wonderful ruler, devout, who did many good things, who was deeply mourned and loved by people around him, including his family, who saw when he was doing something wrong, but also appreciated the good in him. So is Ravan then a villain, an anti-hero, or was he just a human with a propensity for great good and the propensity for great evil, like all of us? So my identity anchors me in the world. It gives me compasses to navigate uncertainty and complex questions. And that's what I think identity should do. Identity should not be reductive, and the one thing identity should not do is it should not reduce your vision. It narrows your focus sometimes. It gives you ways forward, but it should not impoverish your thinking. And your identity and my identity should not deny the right of others to exist. It should not negate others' understanding of their identity. Identity is complex, rich, and ever-changing. Like, think of that child in the story who thought she was English because she spoke English. And she wasn't entirely wrong, because in many ways we in Asia are post-colonial, and we bear things, languages, institutions that have shaped our thinking, shaped our ways of moving in the world. But like that child who was in a class with so many others, German, French, Indian, South Asian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, I think she learned that identity is more complex than just the language you speak, and that it's not reductive. I think she learned to rejoice in the diversity around her and make some of that her identity as well. And that is something I wish for all of us in this world where people move, people interact, in some cases collide with each other. In some cases, their understandings of how the world should be and how the world shaped seem contradictory. But I think if we look deeper, we'll find that they're actually complementary. That all our identities can find space to flourish and space to be in this world today. And that what makes you special is something that I can learn from. And what makes me special is something that perhaps other people can learn from as well. And so when you meet a stranger or when you meet someone new, try not to impose your identity on them. They might want to impose their identity on you. This does happen. But by and large, what I find is we are all aliens somewhere. And we mostly come in peace. We want to learn from each other, and we just want to be happy and safe in this world together.